Good morning. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm talking about raising an extrovert. They just don't seem to stop talking and they're emoting everywhere and debating and pushing your boundaries and they've got a lot to say and you're like, whoa, enough already, please stop. Maybe, just maybe, you are raising an extrovert. Welcome again. My name is Allie Payne. I am a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach, and I actually studied personality styles for 10 years. And this topic is one of my absolute favorites because it in itself can literally take a relationship from a really challenging place to increasing understanding of who we are and create so much more ease and compassion in the relationship when we just understand and understand our differences and then find ways to leverage those and love our differences instead of coming up against them and being like, I can't take it. Someone please take this teenager from me. Okay, in case you haven't noticed, I, yours truly, am an extrovert. So this one, last week I talked about raising an introvert and the extreme challenges that they have. Today I'm going to talk about raising an extrovert. So I'm going to talk about this from a couple different perspectives, and I hope that you as a parent find this helpful. Now, extroverts generally are more suited in the world, okay? And I mentioned this last week that the world is not really appreciative of introverts nor set up for introverts in many ways. And so extroverts, I won't say have it easier, but there are a lot of statistics and data that show that our world is more set up for them, okay? If you're parenting an extrovert, how do you know if you have an extrovert? Well, extroverts are more expressive generally. So there's two kinds of extroverts, just like there is two kinds of introverts. There's the really emotionally expressive, and then there is the less emotionally expressive, but the more dominant extrovert. So they're talking more. So extrovert brains have a thought or receive a stimulus, okay? Then they have to talk about it. They verbally are expressing it and talking about it. Then they hear themselves talk about it. Then they edit their thoughts. Then they process, and then it goes into their brains, okay? So it comes out through verbal or sometimes written, but it's done externally, okay? Outside and then into their brains. Whereas I said last week, the introverts, they have a thought, receive stimulus, do lots of thinking about it, and only if necessary will they ever say anything, okay? So this is the difference between introverts and extroverts. If you're raising an extrovert, they're probably quite, they have a lot to say. They have a lot to say. It can be emotionally expressive, like constantly processing. I have so many parents that say to me, when will they stop talking? Or at school, that's the first thing that their teachers say is, how do you get this child to stop talking? That's a real extrovert, like a solid extrovert, okay? When they're processing a lot. Emotional extroverts also, sorry, I'm just looking down at my notes here because I want to make sure I cover everything. So there could be a lot of talking going on, which can be hard for you as a parent if you're emotionally exhausted, which how many parents aren't, and your teenager or your child is like constantly verbally processing with you. It can just feel like, stop already. So there, you do need to set some boundaries around that, okay? But I will get to those. Okay, extroverts can also be really loud. Like loud, they tend to have less awareness of their impact, and extroverts can be considered to be quite selfish, like self-centered, like you only notice what's going on for you, like you don't notice what's going on around you. Even though they are external, they can be seen as very selfish and not considerate of other people. There's the two kinds of extroverts. There is a very dominant, less emotional style of extrovert, which is like they can seem very cutthroat and kind of cruel, like emotionless. They're not broken. They're not broken. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. They seem to have a very hard kind of shell exterior, which most teenagers do. So just ease up on that. But inside, sorry, my phone just went completely out. Inside, they're actually like really soft, and they actually do have a heart. Don't be fooled. Okay. So extroverts, the emotional ones can be very chaotic, like unstructured. They have a very, very, very difficult time. My phone's going to keep screen blacking out. I forgot to set that setting on it. They can be very unstructured. So like chaotic, they really, really, really struggle with time management, organizational skills. So an extrovert, okay, is internally quite chaotic. So externally, they succeed when their environment has a simple set of structure. Too much structure is like removing oxygen for an extrovert. Too much structure, they don't like a lot of it, okay? So don't go for too much, but they do often, the emotional extrovert needs support, creating structure. They will thrive, and I'm going to tell you this, it will be their lifelong challenge. So if they don't get it, please let it go. They're not irresponsible. They're not immature. That is their lifelong challenge, is creating and sticking with enough external structure that they have an internal sense of calm and peace. Because internally they're more chaotic, whereas introverts are internally quite organized. And so externally they can live in more chaos, and it doesn't really bother them. Whereas a lot of extroverts do not flourish in external chaos because their internal is already more chaotic. Now that's more of the emotional extrovert. The more dominant extrovert naturally creates more structure, and they do better at that. They have a harder time including the emotions, but they'll tell you exactly what they think, exactly what they're thinking, like right here, right now. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Julia. They'll tell you exactly what they think. And this can be very, very difficult because the more dominant extrovert that is quite naturally does structure quite well is your debater. So if you have a child, if you have a teenager who's your debater, like they literally debate every freaking single boundary you have, they push every button and they are debating and they're debating and you're like, stop it! Stop it right now. You are not alone, okay? The debating teenagers are generally your slightly more extroverted. They may not be, okay, they can be an introvert because they don't do this in the outside world. So I am using generalizations. Please stick with me. Yes, you would have to do an actual test for me to know which one your teenager is. But your debaters and your boundary pushers are kind of more your bold, outspoken types. Bold, tell you what you think. Outspoken is more of an extroverted trait, okay? Okay, so I know I'm kind of doing this chaotically because hello, I'm an extrovert. Welcome to my brain. The emotional extrovert is generally quite collaborative. They want to do things together. They want to do homework. They don't like doing things alone. It's just not fun. They just don't like, doing things alone. They want to collaborate. They want to do things with people. They will do almost anything if it's fun. Keep it fun. If you have an emotional extrovert, keep it fun and light. They will do anything if you make it fun and they do it with you. Like literally almost anything. Like cleaning toilets. If you turn the music on loud and like let them dance and like twerk while they're like cleaning they'll do it. No joke. Whereas the more structured and less emotional extrovert, the more dominant debater kind of type, they don't like it when it's fun. They find that really annoying and actually insulting. They want to know, like, they're list people. Do you have a list, teenager? Like, give me the list, just tell me what needs to get done and leave me alone. They need very little direction, and they find a lot of micromanagement or direction wildly insulting. They know what they know what they need to know, just let them go do it. So there's two kinds of extroverts, just like there's two kinds of introverts, okay? There's always an emotional side and there's a more intellectual thinking side. It's not that neither one doesn't have emotion or one can't think, okay? That's not where we're going. These are predominant generalizations of the 4 quadrants of personality styles, okay? All right. Your more dominant personality of the extrovert, they can be a bit of a lone wolf. They need to lead. They are seen as, and I hope you hear this, they are seen as very bossy and aggressive. Hi, that was me. That was me. I always wanted to be in a group, but I had to lead. It kind of had to be my way or the highway, or I was like, yeah, no, every other way sucks because I'm right. Hi, have you met me? So I'm just saying, they come by that honestly, okay? So you can have an extrovert that is very dominant and needs to lead, and it's their way or the highway, which is why they like to argue and push all the boundaries. But it's actually a raw form of leadership. So I want you to hear that I understand that their raw form looks aggressive or can sound aggressive. Your parenting journey with them is to help them learn to take that aggressiveness and be assertive, especially as women. I'm not going to get into a whole soapbox here, but especially as women. It is a good thing. But young women, young ladies will be called bossy and aggressive, but young boys, it will be exalted, that personality, okay? So, I feel guilty asking teenager to help watching. Yeah, okay, so Sandra, that's a different topic. I'll get to that a bit later time. So, when you are dealing with your lone wolf, okay, who's quite maybe aggressive, bossy, outspoken, I cannot say enough. That is raw leadership. That is raw leadership. Those are the people who are willing to stand up and speak out and aren't afraid to. But your journey as a parent with an extrovert is to help them to find the assertive, really effective and constructive use of their willingness to be bold and speak up in the world in a way where people hear what they have to say. Okay? So it can be a very difficult parenting journey if you are an introvert yourself. If you are an introvert yourself, your extrovert is going to push all of your buttons. I am just saying. They're going to push all of your buttons. Because as an introvert, you would prefer to be seen but not heard. You don't need to share everything that goes on in your head. And I grew up in this. My parents were more on the introverted side, I would say. And they considered me to be quite wildly embarrassing. Quite embarrassing. I was the emotional extrovert, so I was chaotic. I was all over. I was loud. I would act before I thought all the time. So in their mind, I was wildly irresponsible and I was embarrassing to them because I was not appropriate. Again, I acted before I thought. That's what extroverts do. So I want you to be really cautious about labeling, okay? This is the one place where extroverts get shamed and blamed, where introverts get exalted because introverts are more thoughtful, more intentional, and a little more planned in their behavior and in their speech, whereas extroverts are so not. They talk and act and then they think. Okay, that doesn't make either one less intelligent, more intelligent. So can we let that go? Can we just let that go now, okay? Now, if you're an introvert parent of an extrovert, you're going to need to set boundaries with your extrovert as far as times that you are available to listen. Because if they are talk, you're going to be exhausted. And then you're going to get resentful and mad. And really, that's their process. And I know that you love them and you want to be part of that. And you want to be present for them. But there's going to be a limit on how much you can be present. And that's okay. So this is about letting them know that their processing style, which is verbal, external, okay, is great and there's nothing wrong with it, and that you are a different style. And so you setting boundaries is okay. It doesn't make you a bad parent. It doesn't make them an uncontrollable child, which is often how extroverts are also perceived. That's where boys get blamed and shamed, is extroverted boys. Is, oh my gosh, they're just so out of control. They like impulses all over the map. They're saying, talking, slap and touch, and boys get labeled with misbehaved, whereas girls don't. So this is another place in schooling that this goes all awry, okay? So you're gonna need to set boundaries with your extrovert if you are an introverted parent. If you are an introverted parent of an extroverted child, there is going to be some probably stiff negotiation for you about what play dates and sleepovers look like, because your extrovert may need that a lot. They want to have people over at the house all the time. They want to be with friends all the time. And you're like, can't you just have downtime? Like, you just need to have some downtime. Well, but extrovert downtime looks very different than an introvert downtime. So it might be, I understand this might be exhausting for you as an introverted parent of an extroverted child to constantly have the revolving door of maybe their friends coming over to your house, or they're hanging out, or maybe they're not home a lot because they want to be over at other people's houses all the time because they find your house maybe a little too quiet and they want to be over at a house where there's like lots of action. That's not a slight against you. That doesn't mean they don't love you. That doesn't mean they don't appreciate you, okay? It means that they are extroverted. Their external environment is what they feed off of. They enjoy being around higher levels of energy, more action, maybe more people, more conversation. And so they may be drawn to environments that are not your home. And that's okay. This again is about understanding your differences so that you can best appreciate, understand, help each other get what needs you have that need to be met, and not shame or blame each other for them. So, yes, ADHD may show up in this. I understand it's outside of the personality thing, but yes. Okay, I totally get it, Erin. And this is real. It is real. So this is where I need you to set boundaries that are effective to say, look, I love that you love all your friends. I love that you love having people over all the time and that you feel safe enough to want to do that in our house. That's awesome. Here's how I would like it to be. Can we find a way that works, right? And so if it's about the mess and stuff, yeah, like you need to have some agreements about, okay, I'm totally good with you having friends over, but if you're going to have those friends over, this is what I need the house to look like when you're done. And that you set agreements about that, okay? So that it looks okay. Now, extroverts do need downtime. Just like introverts need time around people as well, although in much smaller doses, extroverts do need alone time. I'm an extroverted extrovert. On most charts and tests, I actually rate right at the top of the scale, okay? Now, even though when I went to high school, okay, I loved being around people all day and I loved doing all my sports, but when I came home, I barely came out of my bedroom. Because I needed that downtime. I had music blaring, mind you, in my room, and I was singing and dancing, but I needed that space alone in my room to decompress and process all the things that for me happened outside of my brain and my body, and everything I saw and everything, like all my sensory stuff. I needed time alone to process that. So extroverts do need downtime. I was an emotionally expressive extrovert. I was also highly creative. I swear to goodness, I probably just about bankrupt my parents with the amount of craft supplies they had to buy for me, because I swear if I wasn't doing like something crafty, something kinesthetic with my body, sports, crafts, something all the time, oh my gosh, my poor mother. So I needed to be busy a lot. I was good at being busy. Like, it wasn't a negative thing. It was a really good thing. It kept my brain, my extroverted brain going. It was needed so much stimulus, and that I know can be exhausting. Okay. So, the more intellectual extroverts, the very bold, I say what I think I do, they might need a little help honing their message. They will need less group activities. And remember, they're always going to want to be the leader. And that's okay. It doesn't mean they're bossy. We just can we just let go of these labels about bossy and aggressive and you know, how it's okay for boys and it's not okay for girls, but extroverted, expressive boys are seen as like misbehaved and out of control. Like, can we please? Can we let it go now? Can we start to stop shaming and blaming personality styles and start to embrace them and tell kids that it's part of who they are, and then help them to make who they are not best for you or me, but best for them, and hone that, okay? All right. Okay, so if you are an extroverted parent of an extroverted child, you are going to do extroversion differently, because again, there's a full scale on both the introvert and extrovert of emotional, high emotion, all the way down to very low emotion, high intellect. And so I'm a highly emotionally expressive extrovert, but my son is more kind of right in the middle of extroversion. Loves school, loves sports, loves community, loves people, but he's not as emotionally expressive, but he's not really far down on the intellectual dominance either. He's kind of in the middle. So you got to be careful as a parent, whether you're an introvert and an extrovert, to not expect your child to do it the way that you do it. Okay? To not expect your extroverted child, your extroverted teenager, to do extroversion the way that you do. And again, this is about appreciating our differences so that we can be more compassionate with each other and support each other to get our needs met in a way that's constructive, rather than doing the labeling of blaming and shaming. Okay? So, yes, so extroverts the world is more set up for extroversion. Okay, the world is more appreciative of people who talk more. Now, again, I said this last week in Susan Cain's book, Quiet. People who talk more aren't necessarily smarter. Like, they've done studies on it. Introverts, apparently, according to her book, are actually smarter because they have a need to take in greater levels of information. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what her book says. So just because you have an extroverted child and maybe you have an introverted child who doesn't say as much, please don't compare their IQs. It is wildly and unfair and unproductive to compare your teenagers. Sorry, I don't know what just happened there. I hope you guys can see me. My screen just went really weird. Okay, so that is untrue, and I don't want you to get stuck in comparing your extrovert and your introvert. If you are an introverted parent, then you're going to need to set up some boundaries to celebrate and support your extrovert to get their needs met in a way that work for them, but have yourself feel honored and respected as well. And it's probably going to be a constant line, okay? A constant line for you. If you're an extroverted parent, please don't expect your extroverted child to be the same as you. That's not fair. If you have an extroverted child who is very expressive and very emotional and messy and like all over the place, that doesn't mean that they are lacking intelligence. Impulse control and regulation is going to be like one of their journeys, as is setting up external structure, as I said. And if you have a more dominant extrovert who wants to lead, who's very bold, says it like it is, softening their edges is going to be their lifelong journey. That just is. It just is. Okay? Extroversion is not better than introversion. I've said that. Extroverts will attract often introverts, because extroverts often find the quiet and the calm of an introvert very safe and peaceful. But an extrovert knowing when it's their turn to talk and knowing when it's their turn to listen is also really important. Although for the teenage brain, if they're a talker, they're processing. They're processing. So let's do our best to have a look at personality styles as a way of looking at how we are uniquely created and celebrating our unique differences rather than trying to make us be the same or shaming and blaming or labeling and shutting down who our teenagers are fundamentally. I understand that there's a lot of parts of the world that are going to tell you that your extroverted teenager might be irresponsible, misbehaved, immature. That was me. This is my favorite one. Not performing up to their ability, because I so struggled with and didn't like structure. So time management, habit creation, external structure, I didn't like it. I hated structure. So there's a lot of things that go on this that I want you to understand. If you're looking for more about this, I did a full YouTube video on leadership styles, and it's really old. It's about 9 minutes long, but it explains some of this. If you want to do a basic personality test with your teenager, you can go to the website 123personality.com. There are free personality assessments there. You can do it together and you can compare notes. And if you're unclear or you're looking for some further answers, feel free to message me and I will see if I can help you or maybe do some further videos to better explain the differences in personality styles and why it's so important for us to see those as inherently natural, not inherently wrong. Okay? You can always find more of my resources on my website, alipayne.com. And if you are looking to work with me or you're looking for more, you can hit the link in my bio. I have a free parenting community. I have a private parenting community where I go live. You get exclusive content, discounts on my other programs. And you can also be part of my group coaching, confidential, very small groups where you get very personalized coaching with me one-on-one on a Zoom call. So if that interests you, please hit the link in my bio and you can find me there. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I got lots of other rich topics coming up as I head into fall. I've got a whole lineup, and if there's a topic you want me to cover, send me a DM, send me a message. I would absolutely be open to hearing from you, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This was short and sweet, but thanks everybody. Mwah! Happy Thursday, and have an amazing weekend. Bye.